Yes, hello. I am James Rowlands, and today it's the WNR506. It's NXT Update New Year's Evil. I'm not alone. I have a pleasure to be joined by our resident NXT expert and New Japan deity. Is, of course, Monty. How's it going, man?
Oh man, I'm doing good. Always excited to be back talking about NXT. Just happy to actually be caught up on a particular promotion for a change at this point. But definitely excited because we have a big time year just already kicking off to be insane in wrestling when you just talk about the amount of movement going around wrestling. So it's kind of cool to just sit back and catch up with what's been going on in NXT with the breakout tournament and just the Dusty Cup getting kicked off. So it's an exciting time in NXT. So I'm ready to talk about it.
I feel a bit sorry for NXT because it's like with everything else in the wrestling world at this moment, NXT is probably one of the quietest things. You know, we were 24 hours from Nick Nemeth debuting in TNA and, of course, Jack Perry showing up in New Japan, which, again, we're going to try and cover when we can at different points in time. But like we said, we've got 5 episodes to catch up on. But we have got some news first that we need to talk about. And one of those is a very interesting thing about CM Punk, because he's aiming to eventually take over WWE NXT. He was backstage at the December 12th tapings, and of course, has been getting very pally with Shawn Michaels, as we've seen. And he says his long-term goal is to see Shawn Michaels. What do you think of this, Monty? Because this is, I don't understand with Punk. It seems like, depending on what he wakes up, how he wakes up, what he wants to do sometimes, but he wants to look after the younger generation now. And we did hear of stories like this in AEW as well.
Yeah, I think all right. So 2 things is happening. In my opinion, this could be 2 possible perspectives, at least, depending on how you want to look at it. And I'm pretty sure this kind of also depends on how you view Punk already, I believe. But I feel like one viewer, let's just get the viewpoint of people who may not like Punk or may feel a certain type of way about Punk already. One viewpoint is he's phony and he's just talking. He's just trying to say the best possible thing to make him seem like he got a bad rap in AEW and all of that, or and he's not the prick that he came off as, particularly in the brawl out post scrum, and even if you want to throw Wembley in there because of, we talked about you just mentioned Jack Perry, but because of Jack Perry's age, you can look at that and be like, oh, he's just trying to save face, because we know that he hated on people who were younger than him or whatever, and he's being phony. Or you can look at it from the perspective of that he truly, even if it took the time off to reflect, or if he was just thinking this way for certain guys like FTR and Brody King, some of the people that were not as tenured as him in the business long term, but he seemed to get along with, like Danhausen randomly. That feels really random, but they seemingly are really close, seemingly pretty close outside the ring, even after leaving AEW. So
we know that relationships help Danhausen out in AEW at the moment.
Right, yeah, he's doing awesome because of it, right? Again though, like, you can look at it from the perspective of whatever, depending on how you view Punk. This could be honestly just something, and my perspective is maybe just going to NXT for that appearance, the time that he spent there. Maybe he talked to some of those people and saw all the girls like a Cora Jade or a Roxy who idolizes his wife, and maybe talk to some of the young talent, being around their youth and hearing just how many of them grew up watching him, or some of them he may remember from fan meetings, and just maybe that just being around all of that talent made him feel like he would be a perfect person to help nurture the next generation of talent. Because I do think at the end of the day, being in a place like NXT or where your goal is to better, like someone like Booker T and Shawn Michaels and what they're doing, mentoring the next generation, I think it's really awesome. I would love to hear more of the talents, the greats that not only grew up watching or grew up with watching. I would have loved to see people that we saw way back in the day still being affecting the business in that way, kind of like what Triple H is doing now. Because whether you like Triple H or not, or liked him during his career, what he's done for so many talents since then had, I think that is almost a bigger legacy than what he did in the ring for himself. So I would like to think that it's just all one of those situations where he's just like, maybe this last time he looked at it and actually stared at his wrestling mortality, and he understands that he can't necessarily, this is his last chance. He can't have a big ego about it. So maybe when you humble yourself, you look at it from the perspective that maybe that could be the way that I choose to go out. I go out, I get my final run in, I do my best with WWE, and maybe I could lead NXT. I don't necessarily know how true that is. And just think about how crazy that shit, like, come on, think about where you thought when Punk left. Think about what you thought about Punk and you thought him and WWE standard, and then think about how if we look at this 5-10 years from now and CM Punk is leading NXT. Like, just imagine it. Like, wouldn't that be
this
insane?
Is the thing, isn't it? Like, and you talk about certain wrestlers in that position. Someone like Bret Hart springs to my mind of, like, that would have been perfect to teach other wrestlers how to work. And again, if it's the ego or something like this. But maybe Punk's just doing it because he wants to take over. So in a couple of years when Jack Perry joins NXT, CM Punk greets him at the door. Hi, pal.
Right.
Who knows? What again, Monty?
You never know, man.
You and I know 3.5 years doing this. We've had weirder things happen.
Exactly. Like, that's one thing you can always, I 100% agree. Like, and I've noticed some people could be like an Austin or like some of the other greats who just stayed away because it's just too painful. Or you could be like Ric Flair and never go away and always seemingly chasing that camera light thing and not take the mentor role. You feel like you can still go out there and do something physical when you don't have to. Even Adam Copeland has talked about, and I think you kind of can see it with some of the stuff they're doing with him lately, post Christian Angle, just working with some of these younger talent. I think that's pretty awesome, just being in that position, passing along that knowledge, because at the end of the day, it's only going to make the next generation even better, and that's what you do. You pay it forward. So I would love to think that all of this is authentic and all the work, but again, you can't guarantee me otherwise either, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, it may be people who hate Punk who are like, oh no, this is crap. But like, other than if you move your hatred for him aside, can you guarantee me that this can't happen? Because, like you just said, we've seen a lot in him being back is stranger almost than him being a mentor to young talent.
Right, and you talk about people going away, and again, we've had big news this month when it comes to certain things, and of course, WWE President Nick Khan let everybody know that Kevin Dunn has left the company, and his email read, after 40 plus years of helping build WWE and hands down the best production and media unit in the entire sports and entertainment business, Kevin Dunn will be leaving the company. He joined before WrestleMania 1 with Vince McMahon, and the two were hand in hand. And again, when you talk about, has Vince McMahon left or truly left, I believe that now with Kevin Dunn stepping away. I mean, these two worked so well together, and you talk about the production with WWE being world class. That is down to Kevin Dunn, and again, it's interesting to think what will happen now. And one thing I have noticed recently, on SmackDown even, is when the wrestlers have joined commentary and they start to talk and the adverts cut them off. And again, I don't know if that's because it's a different production assistant now or something going on there. But it's weird to notice these little things. But yeah, Kevin Dunn leaving the company after 40 years is huge news. Monty, what are your thoughts on this? Because again, this is the guy, I never thought I'd see this day as a wrestling fan,
100%. It's right in line with the Vince McMahon not being involved, like you said. And I think you're 100% right. This is one of those things of the last line of, Next, I don't know if I could be wrong, and he's already kind of backed off of his duties. But next we'll hear about Michael Hayes not being backstage or something like, it's a lot. That's what I feel like. Like it's insane, like that. But like you said, that last guard of that era of just the entire Vince McMahon era and a lot of people's lifetimes. Like you just mentioned, I wasn't even around when Kevin Dunn and Vince took over before WrestleMania 1. So, when you look back, when you think about it, my entire life, Kevin Dunn has been doing pretty much the same thing. So him stepping away, it makes 100% sense. And I'm pretty sure I've seen a lot of people have a lot of bad things to say, mostly because of stories maybe other people have told about Kevin Dunn. And, I know Jim Cornette used to absolutely despise Kevin Dunn and, whatever. And like I said, certain situations, it is what it is. I get it. But that's not really for me to say. I will say this though, you're 100% right. You can't hate Kevin Dunn the way people do, and then at the same time admit WWE is like, oh my goodness, but production quality, oh look at this, or this and that. Now I get it. I do hate sometimes when they would give us a seizure with some of the camera cuts or something. Like some of the things in recent years have been annoying, but like you said, what we grew up on or just what we know as wrestling or just WWE or WWF, depending on what era you grew up watching this, he was there. He calling the shots. He was the lead guy. So you're 100% right. It's a big deal, and I think decisions like that definitely shows you that, oh no, we're in a new era. This is a new time, and you're 100% right too about not only the commentary with the adverts and all that getting cut off. It also just been certain decisions, like more promos back in Gorilla. Like, they didn't do that as often. Now, they were starting to do that towards the end of last year. I believe when Triple H's run, you started to see a little bit more of that off and on last year. But it just seemed like in recent weeks, I've seen more promos in different places backstage. Even this most recent thing with Tyler Bate and Butch, like where they decided to do that, or doing the club stuff with Chelsea Green and Piper, and all of that, being dealing with Kate and them. Like it's just different approaches, and I like that. It kind of got a lot in common with the randomness that NXT brings to the table.
Sometimes
it's a
more NXT vibe
when you think about it, right?
Like you said, to the promos and stuff like that.
Exactly, but it's different, and I don't mind it because again, we talked about it for years of how formulaic just coming down to the ring, opening the show with a promo, and you know what I mean. It got samey a lot, so I welcome the new change, but at the same time, I do have to take hats off to Kevin Dunn, a wonderful career doing what he did. No matter what side of the fence you are on how you like him, like you said, he did his job for a long time.
Right about. One thing is also, like we won't do on this podcast, is we won't hinder Jinder. That is one thing we won't do. Unlike Tony Khan, who is kind of the gift that gives on giving. I mean, just imagine if Vince was tweeting after WrestleMania, when like Lesnar beat Taker, he's like, "You guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You booked 30 WrestleManias and you tell me." Basically, this came down to Hook being the number one contender to Samoa Joe, and people going, "Why is he? Is he legitimate?" And then WWE had the goal to make Jinder Mahal versus Seth Rollins for the world title, which Tony basically lost his shit, calling it a double standard. This wasn't good, Monty. We spoke about this. Why do you think Tony got so annoyed about this?
It's a couple reasons, to be honest. But I will say this. I've seen some AEW fans try to take over the spot and be like, well, either is he lying or whatever. It's like, it's not necessarily about the lie. And it's not so much about the double standard. Like the fact that you're begging for more heat towards the other company for a decision just because you got a couple mean comments or whatever is insane, well, first of all. But besides that, it's just the entire, like you said, you could do something differently. Part of me thinks that at this point, sometimes Tony is just looking for that extra boost of attention. You know what I mean? I don't think they should be. From what I understand, I know people are talking about how the ratings are starting to dip or whatever, and Warner Bros. outwardly gave them a TV deal, but they got 3 shows on the Warner Brothers on the channels, and they're doing really, really good, especially when you think about what they could be doing, like compared to other alternatives to WWE in America. They're doing really good. So I don't understand really the hostility or the need to have to worry about what's going on in other places. Now, I do think some people overreact and say when they say that he shouldn't be doing this, is a bad look, as if taking shots at the other company has never happened before. Like, come on, man. If you grew up in the Attitude Era, like the stuff used to get on TV. I think the difference is that it's on social media, and you're replying to people who have no effect on your product whatsoever, or shouldn't have any effect. But obviously, the little comments about your booking from random user 3567 is bothers you to no end, to where you have to say something about other people, and you start a Twitter fire to where instead of putting Hook over like I thought the original intention of the tweet, you end up getting gender trending worldwide.
How can you get gender
Most
over?
people, right? How do you, come on, man? You got Jinder Mahal getting all the support. Like, do you know how bad? And I 100% I understood. Some people were saying, well, most WWE fans will tell you Jinder Mahal sucks. So why are you defending them all of a sudden? It's just, but we can say that. If you're a fan of WWE, you can say that. But if you're the competition, nobody want to hear from you. You know what I'm saying? You're Tony Khan. Like, book your show. Be confident. That's another thing. Be confident in your decision. At least silence from Triple H or whatever gives off the intention that he knows what the hell he's doing, and he's whatever it is. Like, even if it don't work, it didn't work, but he tried it and he was confident in doing it. And if it do work, look at me now, I'm a genius. You know what I'm saying? So same thing with the Hook Samoa Joe stuff. If it end up being good, some people are gonna give you credit, whether it's too much or not. And maybe the naysayers that you don't necessarily like to deal with, they're gonna always say something. But that's why it's pointless for you to do that unless you're just trying to get people's attention. And that's why I was like, what is the purpose of these rants? Because they're starting to happen off and on a little bit too frequently. But it seems like when things die down in the news head cycles, here comes Tony with another rant right on time. You know what I mean? And it's like, are you doing this on purpose, or are you just a raging, mark for yourself or whatever? I don't understand.
Well, the voice of reason, Eric Bischoff, tried to criticize more AEW booking by Abaddon having a title shot, and Khan's response was, "No, Bischoff, not true at all. Abaddon returned and then won a 4-way match. Jinder Mahal's not won in like a year. Yeah." Jinder Mahal wins this simply by replying to Khan's comment, "Who the fuck is Hook?"
Right. Exactly. And sometimes it's just better to leave things alone too in these situations. That's another thing. It's like whether my only understanding is that I didn't even hear that much heat for the random booking of Hook versus Joe. I don't know where the heat came from other than his mentions. And I'm gonna be honest with you, Tony. I think at this point you should realize some people are gonna troll you, or they're just gonna bother you either way. Mostly because they know. Like, I'm pretty sure somebody's out there tweeting Triple H all the time. Oh, you're fumbling Mercedes, even though they don't know if he's fumbled her for sure. Or you're doing this, you're not that. And I'm pretty sure that at the end of the day, as long as Triple H don't pay it any mind, none of us will even notice. But because you brought attention to it now I do start to wonder, why did you randomly book to do this out of nowhere for a title shot? Because at the end of the day, it just felt like another Tony Khan booking. Like, I didn't think about it, but when you bring attention to it, now everyone is starting to wonder, okay, well, hold on. Where did Abaddon come from before her title match? You know what I'm saying? Like, you brought attention to it, and now we're putting a microscope on you where it wouldn't have been anything if you just left it alone.
Yeah, you don't shit on your own doorstep, is the old expression.
Exactly.
Before we move on to NXT update, just want to ask a question. Have you heard any good rumours recently, Monty?
Yeah, well, I heard a very, very interesting one that one hit with that very same word that you just asked, the same question that you asked me, that Montel Vontavious Porter of the MVP did tweet out and ask that very same question. And all I will say about that is if you haven't been in the tea leaves, look up MVP and Chris Jericho's name together on Google, and it'll be pretty interesting what comes up. But yeah, man, hearing about that, it was very timely. Let's just say it that way. Even though it happened years ago, it was a very nice, timely story. Because if it's anybody who currently, if you're just going off public opinion, feels like they need, it's just nice to hear about them getting punched in the face. It would probably be Chris Jericho.
Right, well, let's go with the next update. We start from last year, December 12th. My word. Well, let's come on.
Wow.
Mello and Trick. Yeah, I know. We've done worse. Like I said, we've done updates before where they've released entire rosters. So at least we've got that for us. Mello and Trick.
The dark days.
Yeah, exactly. 2.0. Right, here we go. Mello and Trick arrive to the arena. Trick gets cut off by the deadline highlights, which you never like. Whilst Trick Williams was distracted by interviewers in the parking lot, Kamala Hayes headed in alone and was ambushed by a mystery assailant. Or was he? Cora Jade sauntered the women's locker room till Linebacker arrived and Blair Davenport took offence to Jade taking the spotlight. Nikita Lyons stormed out and started a brawl with Davenport. Valkyrie and Lyons sent the hills reeling. Everybody needs to work on their promos here. Meta 3 lost to Josh Briggs, Brooks Jensen and Fallon Henley, with Briggs getting a win, then calling this shot for the Heritage Cup match. Tiffany Stratton tried a cheap shot Henley, but Henley saw red and brawled her to the back. Tiff is so sick of Fallon. NXT showcased the 8 men in the men's breakout tournament, but Lexi King attacked Trey Bearhill with a steel chair. Ava announced that King would take Bearhill's place in the tournament. I mean, it works in Rumbles, I suppose, Monty, so this would be no different, yeah?
It don't work for me because I think since it's a tournament, he could have just every match in the tournament came out and just hit him with a chair, like just every match, like we just both disqualified or whatever. Like I don't know, but whatever. I don't mind it because I was interested to see what the big guy had, but honestly. It makes sense for King to be here. What? The reason why I didn't really think twice about it is because I was wondering why he wasn't in it in the first
place. Well, it's my pick, so I'm going to go for Lexi King. Men's breakout tournament, Miles Bourne lost to Obafemi. You can see that relationship with Gulak has helped. Dragon Lee called Wesley an inspiration for his title reign and told Kenny Kincaid that he would start open challenges. Tuesday. North American Championship, Dragon Lee versus Tyler Bate. Big strong boy pushed for Luchasaur, but he couldn't keep him down. Dragon finished off with the Operation Dragon. And as you said, Monty, this was kind of Tyler Bates' send-off in NXT. How do you think he did overall? Because I think he could have been a little bit better personally.
I 100% agree, especially after knowing how much he meant to NXT UK and just how he was one of those guys. But I do applaud the utility of him at times because it felt like you could plug him into anything you want. You want him to fight for the cup, he could do that style. You want him to be North American champion, he could do that style. You want him to fight for the NXT championship or at least, try to be one of the contenders, he could do that. So I was very optimistic from that point of view because, seeing Tyler Bate used at this level makes me optimistic that whenever on the main roster, they realize that he could be more than just a mid-card guy. He could be used in many different ways. But I will also say that since he didn't necessarily win a bunch and he wasn't necessarily anywhere near, he didn't feel anywhere near as a big star as comparison to what he felt like in NXT UK. I will say that does have me a little less optimistic than I would have been if he didn't have this run at all. He just showed up in the main roster fresh from NXT UK. And the only reason why I say that is because I felt like he felt like a mid-card guy. And I don't think that any of us, when you think about how great he is and how great he's been for a long time, I don't think we want him to just be stifled. He has a lot of the same roadblocks that a lot of other guys have had in the past. that I think could make him end up being there anyway. So it's kind of like one of those harsh reality type of things. But maybe I'm wrong, and he can turn. Because this Triple H also knows how great he can be. Maybe we're just at the beginning of it. So maybe by a year from now, we can look at Tyler Bate in a completely different light. He could be more than just someone who will be in the tag division or someone who is a mid-card type of guy. We'll just have to give it time and see.
One of the things I would say about Tyler Bate, and it's weird thinking about it now, especially how wrestling has changed, but Bate is great as the underdog against kind of monsters, or even people bigger than him, as we've seen in NXT UK. And I think with the talent we've got in NXT at the moment, and as we've seen, there's not that much discrepancy, in height with Bate compared to, Mello and other wrestlers as such. So hopefully on the main roster, stick him against Gunther and see what happens, because that will be as tough as our next match, which was Dijak versus Eddie Thorpe. Here we go again. Hard Justice broke the turnbuckle with Thorpe's back and then used it as a weapon, causing a DQ. The attack of Dijak continued after the bell with Feast Your Eyes until several NXT officials broke it up. I mean, couple of questions. How do you top a strap match? And second, can Eddie Thorpe go 1 week without getting the shit kicked out of him? Because it seems to happen more often than not,
Yeah.
I'm not
torturing Eddie Thorpe.
It's a bit unlucky.
It's just, it's a new pastime in NXT, torturing Eddie Thorpe. I'm gonna say something. I'm only joking here, guys. So please don't take me seriously at all. I'm just gonna say something that reminds me, especially since Eddie is a Native American lineage and Shawn Michaels is a Texan. The history is not too pretty there. So I hope Shawn Michaels realized that Eddie is just a young talent. He's more than just a Native American. You don't have to put him through so much pain. They've been through enough, Shawn. They've been through enough in this country. Trust me. But anyway, if you don't know the story of that, please do your research. It's pretty rough. But anyway, besides that, it's hard. It's really tough to make genocide jokes. Anyway,
do you know what? I don't try, but I'm glad you took a
shot.
Don't
even try. I took a shot, and it's just
you've been with me
damn,
through the updates. Yeah, it's.
I'm trying, man. It's hard to be tasteful, but at the same time, Yeah. Anyway, we're moving on. The point is, I agree with you. It's just crazy to me how much stuff he's been through already. But I think maybe this will also be a setup for a nice redemption type of arc for Eddie, because he's just been through so much. So he has to come out on top at some point. Not even just in this Dijak, just in general. If you see what I mean, he has to come out on top. But I agree with you. It's funny when you think about this angle. Kind of the first part of this angle ended with a strap match. So it's funny to me, like you said, that it's a continuation of that, because strap matches are usually the way that we get things done. So we'll see how they decide to one up a strap match as these episodes go on. But yeah, man, I just came away from this segment looking at it once again. It's great, and I'm gonna talk about how great Dijak is more later. But as great as Dijak is, watching him kill Eddie Thorpe at this point is almost just. It feels like it feels mean. This is wrestling. We understand what this business is, but it just feels bad, right? Aren't you not tired of watching Eddie getting tortured?
It's like Wile E. Coyote, isn't it? You just feel a bit sorry for him after a while.
After a while, yeah, it's like, wow.
Fell off a mountain again, God. Anyway, we move on. Scripps offered an unexplained proposition to Andre Chase for his money woes. Yeah, that'll work. Thea Hale couldn't stop thinking about Osborne. Hale and JC James joined the student section to watch Osborne in action in the men's breakout tournament, beating Keanu Carver. Backstage, Hale tried to flirt with Osborne, but he needed to run to take a shower. Take that as you will. Kiana James and Izzy Dame made fun of her. I want Carver versus Obafemi. Because I think that.
Thank you. I was gonna ask you from the Carver match. Did you care anything about the guy who ended up winning? Did you even care about anything about? I swear I came away from that match like, wow, I like Carver. Then I mean, he hit nice shooting star press, but man, Carver is a beast. That's
Do you
pretty
know
much
what
all
though?
I'm saying.
You know what? I like Carver, but I can make you like Osborne a little bit. All right, I can.
Okay.
Okay. So the last time we saw Osborne was as Josh Morrell, the jobber in NXT UK. Eh? Don't we like him more?
He said, I heard him talk, and I was like, okay, he's British. Okay, nice. Yeah, that's about it. I didn't know. That doesn't make me like him much more, but that's a nice shout. So cool, cool stuff,
Well, at least
guys.
we know him. At least
I
we'd be
will
like,
say this too. Oh yeah, at least we have some familiarity now. It's not just some random student. I will say this too, though, man. I was very optimistic on where they were going with JC and Thea, but man, have Thea fallen off. She was taking people's arms, and now she's in a school. I understand she's still young, so whatever. I guess that's what we're
no.
going with. But a
Can I
schoolboy
just
crush,
say,
really?
yes.
Really?
Well,
Come on, man.
women need a man to sort their lives out. All right, so
Now watch, I get less heat for my genocide joke than you get just for that one part.
That's crazy, isn't it? We see Lyra Valkyria and Nikita Lyons versus Cora Jade and Blair Davenport. In the locker room, we see Lyons and Valkyria try to focus on the upcoming match, but they found Tatum Paxley had put her face all over Valkyrie's Becky Lynch picture. I quite like Paxley, and she appeared again on the barricade with a raven feather, which caused a distraction that almost cost the champ the match. Blair Davenport knocked out Lyra with a knee strike. Nikita Lyons pulled Davenport out of the ring. Cora Jade was legal and stole the pin. Afterwards, Paxley threw out Lyons and embraced Valkyria. I like this. Again, I know we're going to see a little bit more, but I've always got space for a weird friend, even going back to like Mickey James and Trish Stratus, you know.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm interested. I just it has a lot of the same themes to me that angle had, but also a little creepiness added to it too. So again, this is way more interesting than anything Paxley did when she was chasing around the Diamond Mine. Maybe she just really wants a friend, and this time she's not asking. But yeah, no, I'm interested. I want to see where it goes. I think it's very interesting so far, and I want to see, does this develop to a friendship? Does this go in a completely creepy? Does it continue to be creepy or gets creepier? Does it end up being even, who knows? It can go a lot of ways from here. So I do think they're scratching the surface of something pretty interesting.
Yeah, speaking of interesting as well, of course, we've got the whole Trick Williams and Carmella Hayes, and we see Trick Williams and Ilya Dragunov both speaking confidently about the future NXT Championship match. Ilya even saying he's proud of Trick, man. Like, that warms my heart. You have no idea. Carmella Hayes arrived and blamed the Mad Dragon for attacking him and Trick. Dragunov questioned whether Mello was actually attacked or faked it. Mello tried to take the NXT title away from the Mad Dragon and accidentally hit his friend with the championship. I mean, what are the chances? The night ended with Julian chance of Mello's guilty. No, he's not. NXT are playing this so well at this moment. And again, it's another segment that worked.
Yeah, man. Soap opera. It was very interesting. And I also was really looking forward to it. The thing is, I've been Melo's biggest supporter this entire time, and I don't believe him one bit. I didn't believe him one bit. So that's how I knew that the storyline was getting me good, because and even if I end up being wrong, I'll be like, damn, they had me so good that not only do I doubt my favorite wrestler on the entire brand, but it's just like now, you might even feel a little pain or guilt there, even if it all made sense. But I'm with you, man. They're doing a really good job at this point of setting things up. And the thing was for me is when we get the payoff, can you go too long? But I do think, like you said, they so far they're playing their card very, very well, and it's been interesting. My only thing is that the main reason why I didn't buy anything Melo said there is just because the crime didn't match who he was talking about. Anybody else, maybe some other champion, Baron Corbin, other people, maybe you could view that. Even Braun Breaker, maybe, but even Braun don't really strike me as the type to attack from behind and then just get out. and not, because again, Dragunov has been this entire time. There's one thing that's been consistent about Dragunov is when he's mad, he's either going to come straight up to your face and challenge you to a match, or he's going to hit you straight in your face and you're going to brawl backstage. It's not really a hit and run type of deal. So, that was the only thing that kind of went against Melo's argument to me. But I do love it, and I do love kind of like you mentioned, Dragunov showing the utmost respect for Trick just to illustrate that point of Trick Williams' ascension even more, because you remember that while he was chasing Melo, he had no respect for Trick at the beginning. Didn't, really just wanted to swat Trick away. But Trick, not only in their feud, Trick in their feud proved to Dragunov that he was worthy, and then what he's done since then has even, gotten to the point where Dragunov feels proud. So to be a part of that progression, I'm with you. It kind of warmed the heart, and it just made me more eager to see where are we going. How do we finish this out? Do we end up with a triple threat at Stand and Deliver? Do we? How does this continue on? When is this going to end? How they're going to do it? I really hope they continue to. I really hope that the finishing matches the story to get here, because it's been a fun ride so far. If you see what I'm saying, so I really hope the destination is as awesome as the ride has been.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. We move on to December 19th. We start with Fallon Henley versus Tiffany Stratton. It was a physical throughout before Fallon Henley flipped Tiffany Stratton into a surprise pinfall. The Central Universe beat down Henley and dumped trash onto her, which meant the feud is far from over. Melo wants Trick to make it a triple threat match, and who is even though Hayes didn't see who attacked him. And again, it adds another layer, because you go, hang on a minute, you've just accused Leah, but you didn't actually see. Speaking of interrupting, Ridge Holland interrupted Ilya Dragunov, telling him he wanted to rewrite his legacy, starting with a Mad Dragon. Dragunov agreed to a non-title match in the main event. Holland said he needed to rebuild his legacy as a main event guy due to his in-ring history, including the injuries suffered as it hands. Well, I hope nothing goes wrong. Trick was frustrated with Holland jumping the line, and Melo told him to trust him. Men's breakout tournament, Lexi King beat Dion Lennox. Trey Bearhill arrived with a steel chair after the match, running off my pick. Jace Jane and Thea Hale versus Kiana James and Izzy Dame. Hale caught Kiana James in the Kimura lock, but Dame big booted her for a surprise 3. Dahl agreed to defend the Heritage Cup against Josh Briggs after angry Henry stormed off. Briggs told Brooke Jensen to stay in the back next week. Stratton challenged Henley to a match at New Year's Eve where Henley would become Stratton's servant if she lost. Watching backstage, Roxanne Perez promised she would not done with James or Dame. Ariana Grace talked to Prodigy, who slapped her. Eddie Thorpe challenged Dijak to an NXT Underground match next week. Hard Justice gladly agreed. NXT All Championship, Dragon Lee versus Charlie Dempsey versus Joe Coffey. Coffey was rolling until Joe Gacy pulled him under the ring. Luchasaurus then planted Dempsey with Operation Dragon to retain. No quarter catch crew attacked the North American champ after the bell, with Wild and Del Toro running to make the save. Charlie's next match is in Japan. They're sending him to the New Year Giant Series 2024 on January 3rd for All Japan Pro Wrestling. William Regal made the announcement. The video posted to the account. More on this in a bit. But, Monty, this is still quite big news. And William Regal's first appearance since leaving AEW. Maybe he will be manager for Charlie, because Gulak's not really cutting it.
Yeah, and I don't. I'm definitely not opposed to Regal getting back on television or managing, and him and Charlie going on a massive, aggressive heel run or something. And maybe he could be even. The thing is, I want you, like you just mentioned, to like you put it perfectly, because as much as I don't mind what they're doing with Gulak, especially now that they're a catch crew, a faction, or whatever you want to call it. That's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I just don't necessarily think Charlie necessarily has to be a part of it, even, unless they're going to groom him to be the star immediately. And I don't think he's equal to anyone in the group, to be honest. But I will say that they definitely don't need to add Regal to that mix. So I agree with you. Maybe you separate Dempsey from him, and then you bring Regal back, and they can do a full-time thing. But this was definitely a big deal. It just shows how much faith, not only faith that Regal or just management has in Charlie Dempsey, but it shows just the faith that they believe that he would represent the brand, represent NXT in a great manner. And I just think his style also sending him to Japan because he's so technically sound. At the end of the day, Japan may be known for the big kicks, hits, strikes, and just crazy. Sometimes the crazy things that they do. But they, at the end of the day, their foundation is wonderful and awesome technical wrestling. Though if you're a great, just like I know who is my favorite, one of my favorite wrestlers, or the best technical wrestler in the world. If you ask me right now, he wrestles in Japan. He's Zack Sabre Jr. in my opinion. People can argue with Bryan Danielson if you want to argue that. Well, guess who's also been spending time in Japan? Bryan Danielson. So again, technical wrestling works really, really well in the Japanese style, and I just think that Charlie Dempsey is an awesome choice from that point of view. Even if originally when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, okay, so who would you send? Would you send Brian Breaker? Would you send this guy, that guy? So, but no, Charlie Dempsey was a perfect choice, someone I didn't think about at the time, but he fit perfectly.
Without doubt, and like we said, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Andre Chase and Scripps agreed to a match next week where Chase could make his money pay back the family. If they lost, they would lose the money and OTM would get a title shot. Men's breakout tournament, Luca Crucifino lost to Tavian Heights. Nikita Lyons squashed Tatum Paxley. In the locker room, Lyons warned Valkyria that she wanted the NXT Women's Championship after she was done with Davenport. Gallus beat Hank and Tank. Cora Jade took back her locker room spot for Carmen Petrovic, throwing her things out of the way. And then Ilya Dragunov versus Ridge Holland. Competitive back and forth match. Ridge Holland planted Ilya with a brain buster that left the NXT champion unable to continue and had to be stretchered out. Holland watched the corner dejected while officials told him what happened. I didn't like this in the slightest, and I don't know if it's because I remember Owen Hart and Droz, so I'm kind of not a fan of the fake injury or stretcher. But, I mean, what are your thoughts on this? Because, again, Ridge has got a history of injuring wrestlers, and, again, I know they're trying to tell a story, but it left a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, and I think from your point of view, like you haven't really to clarify. I don't necessarily think you like any of them. You know what I mean? Any because in recent years there have been a couple of times where not just WWE but promotions have kind of went with the whether it's concussions, whether it's this or that, they kind of went with the injured role, and you're not really a fan of any of those spots. I wasn't a fan of this either, mostly because I'm late to the purpose. You're right; they're trying to tell a story, but I just don't understand why tell this story with this person. Because of the history. And it's not, and like my whole point is, I thought when you bring him back to NXT and you try to give him a title match and all that, I'm thinking he mentioned it himself, rebuilding his legacy. And I just think, of course, his legacy was hurt by his own injuries. I do understand that part of it, which we'll talk about in the video package that they did after it. That was another thing that I didn't like. We talked about that when we get to it. That I didn't like how they handled that either. But yeah, man, I'm with you, man, 100%. And Dragunov is the worst guy to do this with because he's so damn good. So like you just looking at him twitch or whatever, you look at how he's selling it, and it's like, oh my god! My wife is looking at this and she's like, what the hell? She walked in at the wrong time. She's like, what the hell wrong with him? So I have to kind of explain it to her that I think this is an angle or whatever. And I don't know. Again, it's just. I'm not usually as opposed to it, depending on circumstances. Especially, let's say if someone has an injury history, they blown out a knee or they've had a concussion in the past, and then you just do a story where you tell the story and they're fine with it. I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but when you have something like that, you're playing around with the neck. He already has the stigma online. Like I've never really, like to be honest, Rich Holland is someone that in a lot of ways, not only his injuries kind of stifled him, but the stuff we obviously know, the stuff with Big E, his history, I still see people every now and then, or when Big E gives an update every few months, people are just devastated when we think about Big E, and so we should be. And I'm not trying to say anyone should pile on. I don't support piling on the Ridge Holland because of that, because I know how things go. Like we talked about D'Lo and Draws in the past and how it negatively affected D'Lo's entire rest of his career. He was depressed. He just never was the same after that one particular moment. So I'm never going to say that you need to do that, but I just don't understand how this angle, dredging up all those emotions and feelings, I don't understand what that does for him. I just don't get it. Even if it's
a delay of the trick and a match. There's better ways
Yeah,
of going around it.
exactly.
It just doesn't. And again, I hate
I
it because
almost bet.
no, sorry, I was about to say when an injury does happen, and then people go, "Well, how do you know this is real or not?" And as we've seen in the past couple
Right.
of weeks of WWE television,
Exactly. Exactly. When matches have been stopped. Exactly. And the stuff on just Friday, and then with Vinci, who's now hasn't been on TV for a couple weeks, and all of that type of stuff. It's tough. It's really, really tough, man. And we hear about injuries and stuff like that all the time in the ring, and it's just real. In my opinion, you have to be really careful when you're playing around with stuff like that. And I just don't like. If I could understand the purpose of it, and I would almost rather Holland's gimmick would be that he's not leaning into what he did to E in particular, but let's just say he's jumping people backstage and he's hurting people. It doesn't have to be like this, but to have him selling that, oh my God, it happened again type of deal, and frustration. It's just like, no, we don't.
Worker.
I don't. Right. That exactly. Like, I'm just not good at my job. Damn it. Like, no, that's not a good way to kind of say. I don't know what it does for him. Like, he already has a stigma or a reputation now as not necessarily being safe from, like, I think you should want to move away from it. And then that's why I think what they did later was crazy to me, because then you don't acknowledge Big E in the video package. So it's like, so you didn't want us to think that he's just a bad worker. So what's the point of this? Like, why did he have to do it in that way and in that manner? We could, again, I could go on forever, because, like I said, I'm with you. This is like the only thing where I was like, no, I don't understand why we're doing it. I don't know why we're doing this way, and I don't know why we're doing it, because you're 100% right. You could even do Dragunov got injured working out. Like, whatever you have to do, if you want to delay something, like, whatever it is, you can do an easier way than this.
Well, more on this in a bit, but we'll move on with NXT December 26th. All or Nothing, Chase U versus OTM. Duke Hudson was rolling until Andre Chase took a blind tag and walked into the finisher of Bronco Nima and Lucien Price. OTM earned a future NXT Tag Team Championship match and cost Chase all his money he had won last week. Tony D and Shannon Stacks watched from stage because we won't want them to wrestle, of course. And OTM fell over each other at the finish. That's nice. There's nothing that sets up number contenders like this. Anyway, Heritage Cup, Noam Dar versus Josh Briggs. Briggs picked up the first fall decisively with a running clothesline in the second round. Vic Joseph repeatedly highlighted Briggs working alone between rounds while Dar was surrounded by metaphor support. Dar nearly took a forward knee bar, refused to let go even though he was almost pinned. Round 4, Lash Legend had to save Dar with a bucket that Briggs stole away. He bashed the Scottish Sniffer over with it, causing a DQ, and as we know, a Dar win. But after this, I'm thinking, surely there's better people for Dar to face. Who would we want? I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand why they're kind of doing it maybe with Briggs, but it's like, we're going to get better opponents this coming year, surely.
The funniest thing about it is, like, Jensen of all people already telling you beforehand that this isn't going to be your average Heritage Cup match, because this isn't his style. I think he said it like the week before. This is not really your style of match, Briggs. Yeah, man, it wasn't necessarily the most compelling thing to watch. Probably for the first time in the Cup history, I've watched one of these things, but I do think that their goal was to put over, Briggs here, and I do think Noam Dar did a good job with the way they constructed this match of trying to make him look like just a unbelievably tough to deal with. Let's just say it that way, because not only did he not get a fall, you know what I mean, they couldn't even necessarily get their shenanigans to work to get a pinfall. So it just kind of, he just kind of had to outsmart him there to get out of the situation. And, I accept that, because that works for Noam Dar's character. But at the same time, you're 100% right, where it's like, okay, I think the Heritage Cup is at its best when it's like just a full-fledged competition. And I don't know if it just felt like really it didn't tackle what the Cup does best, and that is just be unbelievably competitive. And, you're running through a sprint with the time limit. At some point, I think in this situation, I got the point. I got what they were trying to do, and you're 100% right. They're definitely trying to tell a story with Briggs here. But and I don't know. I think that's just where we're what we're using it right now. But I will caution you because not to even compare this to what Mark Coffey did when he took the cup. But I would caution you that Briggs could definitely take this cup from my guy, and I don't want it to happen. But I'm just saying, when you think about what they're trying to do, they're trying to strap a rocket on this guy. You can tell they're giving him the clothesline from hell, like they're trying to make Briggs a thing. So I'm just saying.
Some good news though. The good news was that Briggs, Brooks Jensen, and Fallon Henley agreed to go their separate ways. So bye-bye, Jensen. Man. Bye-bye, Jensen.
You didn't for a second there. You didn't feel sympathy. Come on, when he held his hand up by himself and they left, you didn't feel like a hint of sympathy. You didn't have any pain in your heart, just like a little ping of like, oh, poor Jensen, man, just holding your arm up alone.
Month when I announce releases, that's what's gonna happen now.
No, come on, man. Come on, man. Bro, hey, Bruce Jensen might be like Von Wagner. We might have a completely different perspective on Jensen by the end of the year, man.
We saw Von Wagner go for a mill.
That's another thing. What the hell happened to
Where's Von Wagner?
Did he get lost did he get lost in old boy's house? Like, what the hell happened?
My God.
What the hell happened to Von Wagner? That's a great point.
Speaking of drama, Trick Williams told Carmelo Hayes he plans to delay his match with Ilya Dragunov until the Mad Dragon is healthy. Melo told him not to delay, and I got to agree with Melo because if he's injured,
I have to agree with Melo, man.
Take the match. I know Trick. Don't fall on your sword, man.
Zack Stevens Jr. says wrestlers are dumb, and that's what Trick Williams sounded like right there, man. He sounded really dumb.
Cora J beat Carmen Petrovic. Jay continued to stalk Petrovic after the bell, but Gigi Dolan arrived to make the save. Men's breakout tournament, Lexi King versus Riley Osborne. King was rolling until Trey Bearhill stood up from a steel chair on a ramp, distracted him on the rope, allowing Riley Osborne to knock him down and hit a shooting star press to win. Fucking brilliant. My picks out.
Yay.
Well done. Hey. NXT year-end awards as well. Tag team was the Creeds. Woman was Tiffany Stratton, and Ilya Dragunov was a man. You can't really argue with that. Yeah. Match of the year, Dragunov versus Hayes for No Mercy. And the moment of the year was Undertaker on October 10th. Nothing really to moan about there.
Yeah. I think they got it right.
Nathan Fraser ran his mouth again to Axiom, this time about Bron Breakker. And wouldn't you know who heard? This led to a match where the Spear managed to catch the Flash as Breakker beat Fraser. Baron Corbin watched the match closely backstage. No quarter catch clue at club. No quarter clutch clue sounds actually better. Challenged Dragon Lee, Woken Wild, and Dragon Del Toro to a 6-man tag match. Dragon and LWO agreed to the match. Elektra Lopez wants to speak with Wild and Del Toro, while Lola Vice was not interested. Now, I don't know about you, Monty, but I think Lopez was more of a Santos fan than the rest of Legado. But I might be wrong.
Yeah.
I might be wrong.
Well, I mean, Santos didn't bother to come back. I think that might be what it is. Santos totally forgot all about her, I guess.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, so I think that might be what it is. He's like, no, I'm going to support y'all. At least you speak to me when you come back. Santos never showed up again.
Yeah, that's...
Right. He never showed up again. Yeah, just replaced me with Zelina. Never even called me back. But, yeah, I also want to go to say too the other thing too before you got here about the Axiom, the skit at the end, and he was like, Fraser was like, you should have told me. And Axiom was like, man, I winked. I promise you, I'm a pop every time he gives us a mask joke. That's Axiom's best trait right there. Is a joke about a facial expression because you can't see his face. But yeah, I agree with you about the thing. Initially, I was like, why are you so happy to see them? You're supposed to be Santos's. But no, I think the logic is he forgot about me, never cared. So he obviously didn't care much about me. So I'm going to talk to the people who do.
Yeah, fuck him. Yeah. Ariana Grace tried to convince Ava to put Roxanne Perez in anger management. Instead, Ava booked her against Apogee next week. And an interview together by Sarah Schreiber, Lyle Valkyria, and Blair Davenport gave their final words before New Year's Evil. Men's breakout tournament semi, Obafemi versus Tavian Heights. And Tavian Heights showed that he could match the power of Obafemi. However, he still fell when Femi blasted him with an elevated power bomb. Joe Gacy beat Joe Coffey in a battle of the Joes. And NXT Underground, Dijak versus Eddie Thorpe. I don't think I've seen a wrestler get their own match type so quickly. You know, and I know we laughed at Eddie Thorpe and Dijak earlier a little bit, but like, Eddie's match is Underground now. You know,
that's right. Who would have thought? When Raw Underground happened, when it ended, did you ever think you would see it again? And now it's a complete match type from one character all together on NXT. Like, who would have thought about that? Like, it wasn't something that was a hit, but now it's a thing. Right? Isn't it? Like, I thought we agreed that it failed, but hey, Eddie Thorpe has figured out something because this was. I mean, come on, man. At this point, Dijak, bro, like, we gotta have a conversation about Dijak, and it gotta be deeper than the fact that we know he's gonna lose. Dijak is fucking awesome, dog. Like, I don't care what anybody says. Like, I know he's not gonna win, but he makes every time he's out there fighting somebody, man, he makes it a hell of a good time. Like, that's the one thing I'll say. Even if I hate the fact at this point he's so good at giving a great performance that I'm starting to want him to just win all the time now. I want him to he's gonna make me root for him. And I know it won't work because he's Dijak, but like, come on, man, like, he's awesome, dog.
I'm playing a bit of Saints Row at the moment. I know people are going, "Why are you playing Saints Row? It's a shit game." But I've decided to make my character based off Dijak, and literally, I'm running around with like a big leather coat, sunglasses, just a beard, and there's something about him that is just like Terminator. Yes, he gets beaten all the time, but he keeps going. You got to give credit. You know, you got to give credit for that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's dedication. Like, it's been other people. Like, for example, not this current run, because I do like NXT. Baron Corbin is almost a different guy. It seems like he's just comfortable. But main roster Baron Corbin, we knew he was gonna lose, but you know, it got formulaic, it got blend. It was the same almost every time. This with Dijak is the most entertaining guy that we know to finish, which is gonna be we know the finish already pretty much most of the time. But man, it's getting there gonna be funny. Like, it's just gonna be a great time, dog. Like, do you know I want to see him versus Gunther. I know they're both heels, but Dijak and Gunther, oh my god,
yeah, that would be saying incredible. I mean, again, it's like no surprise, but you know what's gonna happen. It's even like in this match where you're just thinking, what can these two do after the strap? And they pull out again, just beating the absolute piss at each other. What was it? It's crazy. Manifest Destiny, third Manifest Destiny through an announce table. Yeah, and it's like, follow that. Oh, we did. The show ended with Trick Williams and Ilya Dragunov signing the contract for the match at New Year's Evil. The Mad Dragon was wearing a neck brace, but removed it before the signing. So I suppose that's saying we're definitely getting that match now, which is a good thing.
Yeah, safe bet.
Yes, safe bet.
Guaranteed.
One of the things not guaranteed, though, was they'll be able to watch New Year's Evil, which was the next show. Because WWE TNT Sports have axed NXT. So it's no longer on TNT Sports in the UK. I pay a subscription for it every month, and now I can't watch NXT, you know. So it said to me, though, and I've got it here, so do not
Did they
worry
even give you guys
this.
a warning that they were dropping?
I got an email. Did get an email.
Okay, gotcha.
Said, Dear James, what the fuck are you and Monty talking about in the podcast? No, it didn't. It said, we want to notify you that you're able to watch NXT weekly programming live on the network exclusively in your area beginning 1 a.m. GMT. If you haven't subscribed to the network, no action is needed. If you haven't, please click here. Why send me the email if I haven't subscribed? Again, I'm not going to argue. So then I go to sit down as I do on a Wednesday to watch NXT. All of a sudden, no NXT. No sign of it whatsoever. So what do, Monty? I send a very strongly worded email to WWE, let's not forget WWE Network, and I put, hello, my name is James Rowlands. I thought you'd like that because that's what I usually say at the start of the show. And I said, I'm a subscriber since you first begun. I'm also a subscriber to TNT Sports to watch Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. I know you sent me an email telling me I could watch NXT exclusively live, but I have a 9-to-5 job, Monday to Friday, so I can't watch live. Is there a repeat of the show, or will I always be a week behind? I can't see anything regarding New Year's Evil 2024 on the network. Many thanks. Did I get a response? Did I fuck? So I went on Twitter, and I put, let's get this right. The network, Monty, hasn't tweeted this year. Right? The W Network isn't a thing anymore. Even on Twitter or X, it doesn't exist. Right?
They fired the social media guy too?
Yeah, literally. W on TNT don't show NXT. So the only way to watch it is live, but if you work, you can't. No repeats, Luckily, I've got fans, of course. Simon Derek Walker said this will draw UK fans away from NXT as lose touch with it. I've been waiting all day for the network to upload on it, for fuck's sake. I'm sure they'll revert back to how it used to be eventually. 24 hours later, the network had New Year's Evil 2024. And I can say 7 days later, not only was it available live, but it was available to watch straight afterwards on demand. So, Monty, I've still got some pull. So, people from the UK listening who watch NXT, you're welcome. I think that's fair. I mean,
see what a nice tweet or a strongly worded email will get you.
Yeah, like come on, we didn't get it, and I'll sort it out for everybody, So what can we say? I mean, I'm sure you don't struggle. Have you had the? I mean, you just ride the cock with ease, don't you?
Yeah, okay, I wouldn't say that. Peacock sucks in its own way. It sucks in its own way. Trust me, especially when things are live. But yeah, I just so far until it switches over to the CW, it's still on USA for now. So I just use my YouTube TV, which is basically my cable provider, and I just kind of been DVRing them. So I've been keeping my situation is still stable. I also when it does switch over to the CW, I should be able to still be able to record them from there. So yeah, I didn't run into many issues, but I do think it's very interesting because it's just like, okay, well, first of all, are you guys never going to have to worry about Peacock? Why did I always think that that the W Network would be alive overseas, like for not long. Like I thought they were they were doing that to hold them over for the transition, and then eventually everyone would have to use Peacock. But no, it seems like this is only an American
thing. They have literally, they've forgotten about the network. They don't even bother tweeting.
Wow.
We don't get anything new. We don't get any documentaries.
No
the only thing we got recently.
You still haven't seen Cody Doc, huh?
No, still not seen that. Don't get me started. We had This Is Awesome with Matt Camp talking about wrestling toys. And I was like, do you know what? I haven't watched the network non-wrestling wise for so long. Let's give this a go. Loads of talking heads. Matt Cardona and Brian Myers on the show, rightly used. You can't talk about wrestling figures without those two guys. It was a really funny moment with Dom, or, as you want to know, Dominic Mysterio, or Tom and Nick, saying that he never got toys because he has a bad dad. Forget about that. But I was thinking about this, and of course, I'm a huge fan. Is there a wrestling toy that you can remember, Monty, as being like, oh my god? Because I always remember as a kid never having them, but you like the Brawling Buddies. Yeah, and I remember having the scene of a friend who had like Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior in the collection. Never give me one to wrestle with, but I always wanted one as a kid, but I was always jealous,
Yeah, I was the kid. I had too many. I had copies. I didn't complain though. I had a friend who used to be kind of similar to me, but he would complain. He would be like, "Oh man, I got a blue Rey Mysterio and a white one. I already got Rey Mysterio. Like, all right, well, give me the blue one then." I just added. Now I have red and gold, white, black. I had like 4 or 5 different Rey Mysterio figures. Like I had too many. I had plenty of them. I should have collected them. Right, because right now they're at my grandmother's house, just sitting in a huge chest of just there, and they're unboxed because I played with them all the time. Same thing with my replica ring that I used to have. I regret that I didn't collect more of the figures, and belts and championship belts at the time. But yeah, I had a lot of them. But the specific ones I didn't care because I was a spoiled. I lived with my grandparents. I was very spoiled. So they didn't really look at what they were either. They just bought. It's another wrestling toy. Because what my grandparents tell me is, if you give me something to watch on television, whether it was a cartoon or wrestling or whatever it was, or if you give me a video game, or if you give me a toy, I was the type of kid that I would be quiet and I would just be playing, doing my thing. So as you can see, so I wouldn't annoy them. Now that I have a child, I get it. You just throw something in front of me. I just want to tell you guys, my daughter does not seem to be that way. She don't care. She's active. She's everywhere. Maybe when she gets older, she will be able to just occupy time by herself. But yeah, I was a very imaginative kid, so I could just sit down and just play with my random figures. But yeah, no, I used to just have a lot of them. That's the only thing I remember. I just remember having a lot, like 3 Booker T's, different eras, different rocks. I was spoiled, very spoiled. I never complained when it comes to the toy.
I'm about to say, even if I had like duplicate Rey Mysterio, we would have just like painted a little bit red and made it Ultimate Dragon or something like that. Like
yeah, exactly. Like you can find uses. Like, come on, man, exactly.
I mean, I had a couple of Stone Colds that I turned into like the Harris brothers.
Right. No, definitely. That's a great reference right there, man. In terms of the Harris brothers, or like, you can. I had a Goldberg toy with a tattoo kind of rubbed off. I was like, oh, Stone Cold versus Goldberg. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, man, you can have fun with it. You just had to be creative at the time. Like, depending on and I think a lot of that has to do with your imagination and just how grateful you were when it came to stuff like that. But I had a lot of them, man, and I'm trying to think of what would be my favorite. I know my uncle got mad at me one time because he had this they were very jacked, but they were also like collectives. He had Undertaker and Kane, and I somehow messed up the mask that would come off of that replica Kane mask, and he was very, very mad about me messing that one up. I do remember that vividly, but yeah, man, I love my toys, man. I still have a lot of them, so I would love. I wonder what should I do with all of those unboxed
They'll be
figures,
worth money.
man.
But buy a clear case and get them standing up and on display somewhere. Like, honestly,
right. That's probably what I should do. Yeah.
If I had room, I would do it. My biggest expenditure recently when it came to toys was to make sure that I had like elite versions of NXT UK champions, and that's something that I've got, which is kind of like bagged and boarded and put away. Like that's what I wanted, and but it's very expensive. Right. So if anybody even collects it now, even Lucy's, as I know, will go for a little bit of money. So, if you want to get rid of money, just give them to me for free. But again, who knows? Like who knows what the future holds? We'll move on from toys, and we're going to talk about New Year's Evil, January 3rd. Might be 24 hours late that I was watching, but just like old times, it was on the network. So it was 1 hour 37. The calls I get picture-in-picture, and unlike Dynamite or Triller, no ad breaks in between. Vic Joseph announced the first 30 minutes were commercial-free, so that helped as well. So let's find out what happened. We get an opening promo telling us all the matches in NXT Women's title on the line. Blair Davenport versus Lara Valkyria. For those paying attention, Blair won this opportunity at deadline. Valkyria was too fast for Blair, escaping the strikes for the challenge. Valkyria took her down with a confident roundhouse kick and cross-leg Samoan driver to win. Afterwards, though, the Vice ran up to cash in a breakout contract for a title shot, but Tate and Paxley made a save. Lopez got involved, but Paxi and Valkyrie sent them running. Thoughts on this? I thought both women were both very technically sound, and I love the fact that they mentioned being in NXT UK, but not actually fighting, facing off, if you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah, no, it was a nice video package too the week before, kind of breaking down how, Blair's been all over the world. Same thing with Lyra, and they just never really crossed paths before, even in NXT UK because of a knee injury to Lyra. But it's crazy how that turned out. But yeah, man, I'm with you. It was really, really cool to watch these two people that I kind of, Lyra, who's just been kind of she's definitely on the trajectory upwards in my mind, because not that I didn't like her in the little time, like you mentioned, when we watched the NXT UK, it's just, she wasn't really she was not allowed to necessarily be there long enough for me to kind of gauge how I felt, but she's definitely won me over, with her run and her recent feuds. And I think the same thing going on with Blair, even though I was always a big fan of Blair, even when she was traveling around the world. So to see them actually get in the ring, you don't necessarily, you never know how the chemistry would look or how the first time they encountered each other looking. Like you said, I thought they did a really good job, especially technically. I think that it was a giant stomp from Blair at one point in this match where I think Lyra just face planted. I've never seen a stomp sold like that. Well, like, I was worried for a second there, but she was fine. She continued on. But man, they worked pretty good together. And I think for that to be their first time, they actually seemed pretty comfortable. So I would love to see what that match could turn into with more behind it, more heat behind it, and just more in general going on from the angle standpoint. But I'm pretty sure right for now, Blair is going to be out of the way. But I think this should at least show everyone that she is in that picture. And I just hope they continue to understand that she belongs at the top of the division. When you think about basically all the new faces, everything that we see going on in the women's division in NXT, Blair is definitely top tier, up there right around Lyra Valkyrie. And I think this match kind of showed that.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think Lyra also delivering like a champion as well, so that's good news
Agreed.
for the women's division. Kenny Kincaid with breaking news. Ilya is injured. Trick doesn't get his title match. What a bummer. Latino World Order versus No Quarter Catch Crew, with Dragon Lee unfortunately stuck in Mexico due to visa issues. Carlito was revealed as Dragon's replacement, and they ran over No Quarter Catch Crew. Carlito hit Damon Kemp with a backstabber. Then Cruz Latoro connected for a 5-40 splash to win. But the most impressive thing, I think, Oakland Wild literally flying. What a dive that was. I mean, I can't remember from my memory a dive like that. I'm sure it will. But my God, the distance.
I know it was early in the year, but that was definitely, it's already like a candidate for like one of the spots of the year, just the way he was catapulted. I don't know, maybe they practiced that move with Dragon Lee, but now you got Carlito there, and Carlito's so strong now, so he just, you know what I mean? And he went way further. He almost overshot the crew that needed to catch him. He almost went a little too far and high, but it was an amazing spot, and I think what you just, I don't know if you noticed this, but I notice it from time to time with certain people, and I think the LWO or Legato or whatever, I guess we're just gonna call them LWO for now. Cruz and Joaquin, completely different guys in NXT than what they feel like on the main roster, or at least what they've been given time to be on the main roster. Because I think after this, they actually had a pretty solid match on the most recent episode with the other LWO, the Legato LWO, basically, or Angel and Umberto. So with given time, I think you can see, now maybe Triple H was paying attention and saw just what they're capable of as a team. We've seen it in their run as Legado del Fantasma, just how solid and really, really good that they are. Joaquin did another dive where he landed on his damn head and he just popped right up like nothing happened. So, yeah, man, this is really a good way to not kick things off, but it was a great way to just kind of keep the show's energy high and going. And I also want to say this. man, can you tell the difference when somebody who has a name or just somebody with some star power when they show up in NXT? That place was insane for Carlito, man. They was really happy to see him, man. And I think you can just tell the difference. Not no shot to anybody else, but the people who are trying to build a name, you can tell the difference when you already have a name and you show up in NXT. I think we've noticed that with a lot of these appearances over the last 6 or 7 months.
Oh, I say Carlito's not been that over for 20 years, has he? So, it's a
yeah, it's insane, man. They were really happy to see Carlito.
Drew Gulak was not happy with his group after the match. Carlito spit apple in his face. Charlie Dempsey was not willing no quarter catch Drew because he was in Japan. He faced Katsuhiko Nakajima for the Triple Crown Championship on January 3rd. Weirdly enough, David Hart Smith was in the match before the main event of this. We're going to jump to All Japan Pro Wrestling and seeing David Hart Smith and go, bloody hell, that was lost potential. But Dempsey had fans. It was in a small arena, like a New Japan gym. But I quite liked the commentary, even though I understood no word. It was all right. And the lighting was very good. Dempsey probably showed more in this match than he has in his NXT run. Do you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, the other fella was all right and retained, but there was a cattle mutilation, a crab pin. All in all, his performance was kind of great, really, wasn't it? You know, I mean, what were your thoughts, Monty?
Yeah, man. It was an incredible performance. Like you mentioned, Nakajima, the other guy, the champion, he's the Mad Wolf. He has a lot of nicknames. The Dark Assassin. I think he's like the Supernova. He's wrestled. He's wrestled everywhere in New Japan. I mean, in Japan, he wrestled in New Japan for a time. He wrestled in Inoki. In the Inoki's Federation that has nothing to do with New Japan, 01, Michinoku Pro. So he's been everywhere, man. Nakajima has a name. He was really, really young when a lot of his wrestling that he's done around the world. So he was like a prodigy, I guess the best way to kind of tell it. So I think it was kind of cool to me after the match to kind of hear Nakajima talk about, looking forward to just working with people like Dempsey or just looking forward to just working with a Dempsey again in the future. So, not only does that sound good when you think about the partnership of just All Japan and WWE in general, but it just shows you that he was once in Dempsey's shoes of kind of being a young guy, earning his respect fighting established guys. And I think, that's what he's been doing now. But, he's been a freelancer for a while. So he used to big name in Noah, and I just want to point out and give him the credit because I want to point out or give a nice background because I want you to understand that he's a bad guy right now, and especially in All Japan, he's walking around doing Inoki's taunt. That's New Japan's patriarch. All Japan was started. But not by they're kind of like the antipodes, the opposite. If you want to say AEW, WWE, or you want to even be more topical, even though they're before WCW. You want to say you can go all the way back to that because they were created by Giant Baba, which is when Inoki and Giant Baba kind of split off from New Japan. Giant Baba started All Japan, and Inoki went on to be the leader of New Japan. So doing Inoki's gimmick in front of those fans, no matter how big the arenas is, even though, All Japan is nowhere near what they used to be, it does, trust me, he pisses those people off to no end right now as their champion. So the night before, it was a preview tag, and Dempsey, I saw the internet, I saw people who are Japanese professional wrestling fans talking about who is this Dempsey kid, and, and whatever. They didn't really know who he was. All the fans are silent. They don't care about him. But that really wasn't what it was. He's just unfamiliar. But after watching him in the preview tag, which he shocked a lot of people by pinning Nakajima in the preview tag, because usually that doesn't happen even if you are fighting for the belt, to see them actually go out there and work a competitive title match for the top prize in All Japan, and to hear that crowd, like you mentioned, throughout the match start rooting for Dempsey and cheering for Dempsey. And like I know, Dempsey's not fighting he's not Ospreay. He's not fighting a flashy style. He's not doing something to win those people over other than going in there and, like you said, counter mutilation, just doing technical wrestling effortlessly as we've come to know from Charlie Dempsey. And I 100% agree with you. This was the best we've seen from Dempsey since maybe in general, because even in NXT UK, even though he had great performances there, he was really just scratching the surface of what he was trying to do. Something he was really just getting started when they pulled the plug from NXT UK. So when you think about what he's done so far in NXT, he felt like he showed everyone what he can do in a big time match in the main event, and he earned a lot of people around were not only worldwide fans but worldwide talent really came away from that match with more respect. And I just think at the end of the day, for someone young like Dempsey and someone who's trying to establish himself in the WWE system, this could do wonders for Dempsey's confidence. And I just hope that the booking when he returns reflect a lot of that goodwill that I heard coming from people's reviews of the match and just watching Charlie Dempsey. Because I see a lot of people who are not fans of WWE know he's Regal's son, and they kind of had that same reaction me and you had when we first watched him wrestle. Because we was like, oh my goodness, like look at that Regal plex. Like, oh my God, he's just naturally talented. Like, damn, I definitely can see his father in him. And I saw some people saying, why haven't I seen more of him from WWE? Like, you see what I'm saying? Now you got people who don't necessarily watch looking for more of him. So I just feel like that was kind of validating for me, because it's like, well, see, look, I had that same impression of him too. Like, he's awesome, right? You just got to see more of him. And I hope that NXT gets that message from sending him on tour. I hope that was the motivation behind it, that they want 2024 to be a big year for Dempsey, because I think me and you both know he has what it takes, man, especially in between the ropes. Maybe he does need to develop some promos and all that, but a guy like Dempsey, I don't even think he needs that, man. I think he just needs to go in there and beat some people up, and just focus more on that, on what he can do in the ring, because that's his strong suit.
Yeah, it's what we talked about earlier as well. If they've got Regal there, as long as it's not a clone of what his dad was, but if he does his talking for him, then I think it will work. I think it's less of a Ted DiBiase situation than it is anything else, like.
Right.
I compare it to where you just like, I think there's enough going on there. It would be interesting. Anyway, back to NXT. Grayson Waller mocked Trick Williams backstage until Kamala Hayes announced that Trick would fight him with his NXT Championship shot on the line. Trick was not happy.
What a great best friend.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, cheers. Roxanne Perez beat Ariana Grace. Afterwards, Grace kept goading Perez until she attacked her. The prodigy refused to let up, and the referee decided to reverse the pinfall decision, awarding Grace the win. Good stuff all round.
I hate
Grace celebrating.
No, I love the angle, but I just hate the reverse decision thing. Like, oh, screw you, ref. Let me get on her again, then.
Grace celebrated like she'd won a hard-fought match. That's the...
Yeah. She's great. Yeah, but yeah, I agree. I love that part. I just hate the ref. Like, did he standing there with a smug attitude? Like, I told you to stop it. I'm just like, man, shut up. Like, I've seen worse happen. Did you not watch somebody? That's the only thing I have a problem with that is that, come on, man. Like, we've seen worse happen after matches. Like, they ruined the WWE historian in me. Like, I watch a last man standing match in where I think Stone Cold or Triple H dropped did he drop Triple H's car from a forklift or something? Like, I know that was a different era, but like, come on, man. I've seen matches end in some crazy ways. They didn't reverse the decision of the last man standing match.
Well, it's true. Another thing I noticed is Ava has some interesting tattoos. That's all I'm going to say about that. Just some interesting choices. She is now Sean's assistant. I wonder why. She announced the return of the Dusty Classic. Nikita Lyons wants Blair Davenport. I'm pretty sure it was Wesley Blake, former NXT Tag Champ, that broke them up fighting. Which, again, some people go up, some people go down,
No shout.
Servant or farmhand, Tiffany Stratton versus Fallon Henley. Will they beat the piss out of each other throughout this personal fight? Centre Universe tried to use a steel chair. After referee pulled it away, Henley busts Stratton with a running knee to win. And I tell you something, women delivered on the show. And I can't wait to see Tiff milk a cow. Not like that, you perverts. But again, the woman coming through again on NXT.
No, I love this entire thing for Fallon. I think this is a great use of Tiffany, because we talked about this before with her status in the women's division. Basically, like I mentioned, with Blair showing that she's championship, or at least in that championship conversation, we know that Stratton is also, even though she lost it to Becky, we know that she felt like she was leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else. So what do you do when you have someone booked to that level? Is you use her in a situation like this to bring a Fallon Henley along, or at least up closer to her level, or at least, she's beaten her twice now. So even with the thing, and then the fact that Tiffany even tried to need a chair for the situation, also put over Fallon Henley as a competitor. So yeah, man, I'm with you. I really like what the ladies did here. Even by the way, Tiffany's just so naturally gifted. Like, she slipped on her moonsault and still landed on her feet and ended up being perfectly healthy. It's just like, wow. It's like she just some people have it all when you think about just athleticism and talent in the ring, along with the rest of it. But yeah, man, I was definitely all for this. I did think though about this entire stipulation, besides the farmhand part. It did make me. I chuckled to myself because I was like, I wonder if James is gonna. James noticed that once again, us Americans just cannot book without doing some servants. We just gotta have a servant angle in American wrestling. Yeah,
I'm just glad it features these two and not like Lash Legends. Or
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
we don't even go there.
Yeah,
don't even go there.
Seriously. Baron Corbin convinced Bron Breakker to team with him in the men's Dusty Classic. Do you know as well? I completely forgot. Baron Corbin was in the first Dusty Classic as well, and when Vic said it was a guy who was a spear, I couldn't think. Did you know, Monty, when he said it? Because it took me ages.
I'm still stumped, to be honest.
Yeah, because he said spear. If he'd have said gore, I would have got it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I would have been like, when was Rhino in NXT? But apparently, yeah.
Again, he did spend a short time there, I believe. Yeah.
The crazy thing is, I reviewed it, so I must have watched it at some point.
You had to see it, Jay.
Yeah, like, it's crazy. I've seen all the Dusties. Gigi Dolan and Cora Jade got into it in the locker room. Agreed to a match next week. Ridge Holland talked about his history with injuries. He explained that he came to NXT to show who he is. Now, Monty, I know we got a lot of problems of going like, but I just dropped him. It's a lot like Other Mice of Men. I crushed the, I didn't mean to hold so tight.
Right.
But for me, as well, I just don't see Ridge having any personality or it factor. I mean, prove me wrong, Ridge.
No, yeah, I'm with you. He looks good. I think the look and like the size and even some of the wrestling, even though I haven't seen a lot of it, I think the Smash Mouth style. You know what the problem I have with it too, from that perspective, or at least potential perspective, is he almost feel like the way you give him personality. The problem is, I guess we have a lot of guys. We've already done this for Bron Breakker. I think that's kind of the problem. But yeah, he almost would fare better if he had no remorse and no, you know what I mean? And just because he doesn't have the biggest personality, that it almost would help him if he was just a killer from the perspective. If you see what I'm trying to say, maybe that could work. But again, I already mentioned earlier my problem with this entire segment. I was definitely I'm sympathetic, especially because I knew he hurt himself bad on the leg injury, but they didn't have to show me a picture. I didn't need to see it. I didn't need to see the picture. They brought up his kids and all of that, and I just was like, don't go down the timeline, but then bring up him busting his nose like we haven't seen or heard worse than that. But then you're just gonna kind of skate over what happened to E. It's just like, okay, again, I thought the whole point of this was kind of acknowledging it so we could put it behind us, even though I don't think we ever should have had to bring it up in the first place. I thought that's the whole point of this angle. But now I'm just trying to figure out, all right, is Ilya really hurt and they just needed to put it off because of that? And if Ilya is really hurt, why couldn't we just say he's really hurt? You know what I'm saying? Like, I just had so many issues the more I thought about it from watching this promo. And again, my only question is, you can tell me this, Jane, like, I agree with your opinion so far. So far in his run, he hasn't shown me much from a character standpoint that I can give you, other than the fact that he has a nice or a pretty good look. But what does this do for Ridge to you? Do you think people are going to cheer for him now? Because I don't think this is going to work in the same way it worked for Von Wagner.
They're not going to give a fuck.
And then
it
doesn't make people hate him. Exactly. Like, people are pretty indifferent about him, or they don't like him because of what happened with E. So it's like,
you do the hill.
what do you get?
Yeah, you do the hill of not caring and actually trying to end people's careers.
Start to
all
hurt
that and
people. That's the only
build it from
direction I
that.
think you can get from this. Yeah.
Because the other way is just, like he said, it's just sloppiness. And I'm sorry, but I've never babyface with fire and sloppy's not one of them. Being dumb's not one of them.
Exactly.
So it's
and then you
again,
can't give me the
Ridge,
foreigner kid angle because we got Dragon off for that, right?
If the brutes can't get you over, then it's going to be a long. Again, I'm not saying a tag team with another big muscly dude and a manager wouldn't work. Von Wagner and him together.
Well, Wagner's sitting right there.
You know what I mean? Like, again, it's the same with Corbin and Braun, where it's like, if you're not doing it with Braun at the moment and you're sticking with Baron, then have them be a successful tag team. Don't have it. And again, it seems with with his NXT UK title run ending with an injury, I weren't sure if an injury or not. And it feels like we're getting very similar with the Trick situation of just give Trick the title then. Have Trick beat him at New Year's Evil, have the injury, and then you can still have both storylines, because otherwise,
exactly.
if the end goal is stand and deliver with Mello and Trick, then is that going to be for the title, or Via's going to be overshadowed by that? So do you know what I mean? Like,
it's a good question. Yeah, exactly. It made me start to wonder because with the entire injury thing, and now he's off TV. He's been off TV a little while. It's like, okay, so what is the end goal here? Like how long can you put this off before you have to pull the trigger on a Mellow turn, or like again, because you guys were planting major seeds, and now we're just supposed to forget about it and move on and do other things for a while Ilya's away. Yeah. But it's like, Trick is still the number one contender. We got to keep that in mind. It's just, I don't know, man. I'm with you, man. It's just like, if the end goal is to get us Mello and Trick, then Dragunov could have lost the belt and we can just move on and we could go that route. And Mello can pretend to support his friend right now as champion or whatever. I understand we wouldn't want it to end that way, but I just felt like Dragunov he was too involved in something. And then if this is all just Angle, then I really don't understand it because you're ruining the pacing of a really hot story that we had going on. So it's just like, I'm assuming something has to really be wrong. So if something really is wrong, why not pull the trigger and, like you said, and just do it that way? So I don't know. We just have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, and also if we're going to have, again, not having to go here because we know how much we love him, but if we are going to get Trick and Mello, we don't want a triple threat match to ruin that first ever one-on-one meeting type of thing.
Right. No one else needs to be there.
Yeah, it's weird how they're going to do it. Anyway, men's breakout tournament final, Obafemi versus Riley Osborne. Thea Hale wished Osborne good luck before his match. She and Jace James joined Chase U student section to cheer him on. She's a jinx. Riley did well, but Femi cut him off with pure power, winning with a pop-up elevated power bomb.
I'm sorry, brother. If your angle is you in love with somebody, you ain't winning against that man, against that guy. Man, did you for that second think like he had a chance? Like, come on, man.
I couldn't believe he beat.
I know I
Lexi
picked
King,
him at the beginning. Exactly. I thought Lexi King and Oba was gonna be the final, and maybe I was actually worried about Lexi because I was like, yeah, maybe they can do some type of screw job on Oba, because at the end of the day, I thought Oba at the very beginning when they were listing off now, I was like, no, I remember Oba Femi. If he didn't get hurt, he probably would already be up the card because he just seemed like he had a night that it's the explosiveness for me with Femi, man. Femi is just, I see the potential. I know what WWE likes, and if it's one thing they like power and speed and explosivity. I mean, look at Braun. Look at other situations that work. A dominating big guy who can do something, who can just knock the hell out of you. It's pretty easy to make that work for WWE. At least they've shown that they know how to do that formula. So, but again, right? I don't know. I'm not really the biggest fan of the whole love story angle. I honestly feel like, I don't know how you feel. This is really what I wanted to get to. How do you feel like about where we went with Chase U? I think we've been enough time to look at the entire angle, and you think about how hot it was when they won those tag titles, even if we wasn't really expecting it. what do you think we like? I feel like they've now, I don't want to say dropped the ball, but
They've jumped
my
the
interest
shark.
in what they've
Yeah.
done, yeah, my interests have gone drastically down to the ground. You know, my interest in the entire debt situation, my interest in what JC and Dia has going on has been down. It's just what are we doing here? Because I felt like they were really, really hot, and now it's just like, okay, whatever, another Chase U skit.
It feels like
Whatever.
it feels like Tony Khan's booking it. You know,
Yeah,
like it feels like it's gone on for too
no
long
direction.
with no point. The end goal was always like Chase versus Duke Hudson, and it's not anything like
We're
that
not
ever.
getting that now for some reason.
Like,
Right?
it's
Yeah.
nothing. It's nothing
Like
like
maybe
ever.
it started to work too good and they wanted to, drag it along a little bit more. But it's like, no, man. Like, well, come on, man. You got to pull the trigger sometimes. Like, sometimes you leave a story going so long. Now, like, what's the point? Why do I care?
Mm-hmm.
So,
it's true.
if I'm ever asking myself, why do I care when you're doing something, that's not a good sign for a wrestling angle.
Well, speaking of two tag teams I don't care about, OTM sent a warning to the family ahead of their title shot next week. Family talked up the support Adriana Rizzo before running into Joe Gacy. We get Nathan Frazier and Axel agree to team in a Dusty Classic. I like the saying something with that someone behind him, the old foot in the mouth. I think Nathan Frazier, he did it again with Enofi and Blade. And I think you do this long enough, it's going to be funny. You know?
I love it. I do. I agree. I love it. And just again, Axel is the perfect person because he has no facial expression cues. So it's all body language. So when he's literally face palming as you continue to talk, I love it. I love it. I agree. That's a great little get. I think for some of these people, Axiom or A-Kid or a lot of Nathan Frazier, guys that we love in NXT UK, everyone almost outside of Noam Dar and Dragunov, in my opinion, needed something to attach themselves to character-wise. And I think NXT have been doing a pretty good job with that when it comes to giving like Nathan Frazier something outside of how great he is as a wrestler. Or same thing with Axiom. Like, he's a great wrestler, but a lot of the mask stuff is making me like him even more as a character. And I think we mentioned this in the past about a lot of those Heritage Cup guys like A-Kid and Frazier. Like, oh, we love him in the ring, but A-Kid promos, I don't know, not that interesting. And I think Frazier putting his foot in his mouth is a nice touch to his character so far.
Yeah, without a doubt. Speaking of Chase U, just a second ago, JC Jane announced that she was taking over planning for Chase U, start repairing up Duke Hudson and Osborne for the Dusty Classic. Yeah, because why have the former tag team champions? Number one contender, Trick Williams versus Grayson Waller. Muller almost distracted Trick for the loss near the end, despite being told to stay in the back. Shawn Michaels announced the former NXT champion was very interested in this match. It was Kevin Owens who blasted Waller with a right hand. This set up Trick to hit a running knee to win. Booker was great here as well. Tell him to kick his ass and then be like, oh, did you hear me? Did you hear me, Vic? But I think the main thing about this is Trick's best friend continues to try and ruin Trick's moment quietly without success.
Come on, man, because this one was really tough. Like, this was really hard to explain. Like, not only did I ask you to stay back there, the timing of when you decided to come out, and if it wasn't for Kevin making an appearance that I wasn't expecting, then his excuse next week was pretty stupid in my opinion. But we'll worry about that. But again, man, this one was just egregious. Like, I'm almost borderline saying, Trick, I love you, man, but you're way too trusting. You are way too trusted at this point, man. Like, because he is hating in the most, I guess it's on the sly, but it's not on the sly for anybody else. So Trick is the only one unaware of how hard his partner is hating on him at this point. I don't know, man. But Melo has also been gaslighting him in other ways too. So I do give him credit for that. But yeah, man, this one was just obvious. He blatantly pretty much tried to give he not only put your contendership on the line to give it to Waller, he almost blatantly tried to give it to Waller. Like, I don't know, man. Me and my friend would have been fighting that day.
Well, maybe he was just misunderstood. Who knows? You know, like,
the only thing making you say that is that thread of you hoping that they actually still win the tag title.
Yeah, I'm going to say it.
Only thing making you say that.
They mentioned it, Well, we're going to get to it. Last episode,
We'll get to
January
it. We'll get
9th.
to it.
Tonight should be good because it's the start of the Dusty Classic. Before that, Nikita Lyons and Blair Davenport started brawling in the parking lot before the show. Surprised neither of them got taken out and injured. But that fight continued as the show began. Start the match early with Blair putting out the win. And then we see Cody Rhodes narrated video package on the Dusty Classic. Carmella Hayes convinced Trick Williams they should tag together in the men's tournament. You see, Monty? Because the final's going to be Vengeance Day and the winners will be tag team champions. I said this. Maybe they're going to do that instead.
And you know I'm taking them over Stacks and Tony. I think everybody picking them over there.
Well,
hey,
I'm
with you, man.
Triple Crown.
Yeah, triple crown, Mello, two belt trick, like all of that sounds good. All of that sounds good. Two title trick or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, man, I didn't think about it until they, you know, and I think because of Dragunov being out of the picture, it makes even more sense. My only thing is now is like, I think we might be on a crash course when it comes to Trick and Mello versus Braun and Baron Corbin. In which do you go with the established? But obviously something is going on there, situation with Trick and Mello, or do you go with the makeshift WWE team that they love to book to win?
We're worried about predictions in February already. Like, we don't know what they're going to do. Like, we know it's going to happen.
That's definitely has to be the final, right? I don't see anything. I mean, yeah, even Frazier and Axiom, like, nah, I don't. Yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
It has
like
to be
we said, we've got Bron Breakker and Baron Corbin versus Gallus. Then Axiom, Nathan Frazier versus Hank and Tank. Then the other side, Chase U, which is Duke Hudson, Riley Osborne versus LWO. And Hayes and Trick versus Malik Blade and Edris Anofi. We started with Gallus versus Bron Breakker and Baron Corbin. And they struggled for tag team synergy, but still protect each other throughout. Breaker speared Wolfgang to set up Corbin for End of Days on Mark Coffey to win. Before we talk about them as a team, the Gallus are the Bron Breakker of the tag division.
yeah, they've been there so long that now you're looking at it like, how far have they fallen? Man, they definitely should be fighting Imperium or going, you know, up there with Pretty Deadly. I don't know. Maybe they have a limit on call-ups when it comes to tag teams, because they're definitely ready. But I don't know, man. I kind of hate to see them used here for this, but you know, once I seen that's who they drew in the first round, I was like, oh yeah, well, bye Gallus, boys.
We get Lyra Valkyria announced that a Battle Royal next week will lead to a final fatal four-way number one contender match, determine who she would face at Vengeance Day. They've been watching Wrestle Kingdom. Lola Vice and Electra Lopez interrupted, and Valkyrie challenged Vice to cash in a title shot. Instead, Lopez and Vice attacked until Tatum Paxley made the save. We get the story of Tiffany Stratton's day as a farmhand with Fallon Henley played out, and she realised that hard work that went to his upkeep. I tell you what, I know we've just mentioned Paxley and Valkyrie, but I think Henley and Stratton are my pick for the Dusty Classic. Like I said, they're both tag teams. We love them in WWE.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think if they ended up, and I think that's probably how it's going to work out. They probably will end up, you could try to say Kiana and Izzy, but yeah, I think I would definitely go for the Tiffany and Fallon, even if they are going to argue the entire time. And what is Fallon's look, man? She go from Kiana, who she hated and teamed with, to probably going to be matched up with Tiffany. But yeah, I'm
after a while.
I like what they're doing.
I was about to say, after a while, it says something about Henley rather than
Very bad judgment, huh?
Yeah. Josh Briggs beat Aura Mensa. NXT Tag Team Championship, the Family versus OTM. The Family got some help from Adriana Rizzo that took scripts out, with Stacks blasted Bronco outside, while Tony D hit the forget about it on Lucian Price to win. This wasn't as bad as feared, you know? And in the parking lot, Jada Parker told OTM they needed her, and the group agreed, because who doesn't need two managers?
That's a great point. That's a great point. Who don't need it? Whatever. We'll see how it goes in that regard. I don't know what made. I don't know what. I mean, I guess because Rizzo made the say, helped out, but it was like you said, it was even already. So, but hey, we'll see how that turns out for them.
Who knows?
I do have this question. I don't know why this match had to be. I don't know who thought that Stacks and I don't know who thought Stacks and I don't know why I want to say Deuce and Domino so bad.
Honestly, yeah, no.
I haven't watched wrestling, so I haven't watched them wrestle in a long time. But man, did they give me so many Deuce and Domino vibes? And I think Rizzo with her, she leans into it further than them with the way she talks.
If she brings roller skates, then I'm out.
Right. She leans into it worse than them, so it's like, wow. I didn't think they could make them any more annoying, but hey, it is what it is. I hope whoever wins the Dusty Classic. I know we was just talking about whoever wins it, man. We need new champs, right?
The thing is that we do year-end predictions, and it is impossible. I'm saying impossible to guess who your NXT Tag Team Champions will be at the end of the year. I just can't. I just like
Von Wagner and Von Wagner.
It could be anybody.
Whoever
NXT,
you decide.
Yeah, whoever. NXT Anonymous caught JC Jane coaching the female students to chase you or what they need to do to save the university. Cora Jade beat Gigi Dolan. And the news coming over the weekend was that Cora Jade, it looks like she's appeared to injure herself on a house show on Friday.
Yeah.
The specifics are unknown. I will say,
hope it's not as bad as it sounded.
Yeah, it didn't sound great. First off, there was a picture of her on the picture of NXT on the network, and I couldn't recognise it because of the blonde highlights. It's not about that. It's about the injury. We don't know how bad it's going to be. We will find out.
It will suck, man. She just came back.
Next update.
So I hope she's fine.
Really bad.
Yeah, it will suck.
We get Dusty Classic, Nathan Frazier and Axiom versus Hank and Tank. And Hank and Tank looked great early on, but Axiom wiped out Hank with a running knee to set up Phoenix Splash from Nathan Frazier to win.
What does this say about the established teams in the city?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like the tag team. Well, I love NXT as much as anything, but I cannot. The state of tag team divisions, in AEW or NXT is just a disgrace. I'm not going to lie at this moment in time. And AEW's got no excuse because they got teams. Like NXT,
right? They have established teams.
They have teams. They choose to put people together. Blade and Anofi are our longest tenured team. So that.
Oh my God! What a point! Yeah, man.
Yeah. But don't
worry,
you
have to beg someone from the main roster to spend their time back.
LWO
Please,
need to be
Del
in
Toro,
it
right?
because
please, Cruz.
Brindley Reese, who I thought was Thea Hale for a second. I don't want to be racist, but hyperactive blonde women, you know what I'm saying? She joined Blade and Anofi. And then our main event was the NXT North American Championship, Dragon Lee versus Lexi King. King mocked Femi backstage, giving a breakout tournament winner an idea to watch the main event closely. What was the point in winning when Lexi got a shot anyway? And like the same holder of a contract managed to get that, it just didn't. I just thought, oh well. Trey Bearhill confronted King early in his match until officials sent him to the back, and Lexi did not ready for Dragon Lee, who was impossible to stop. Luchador put him away with Destination Dragon. Obafemi headed to the ring to cash in his breakout contract and took down Dragon with an elevated powerbomb. And your new North American champion, Obafemi. Big shoes to fill for Obafemi there, Monty, and a bit of a shock to end NXT Update.
Yeah, man, it was definitely a big shock. I do think it's an awesome way to kind of already put him over. I did mention that if he wasn't hurt when he initially kind of made his debut, he probably would have already been going up the card. But I do agree. I definitely didn't necessarily think about him being fast-tracked to this extent. But I don't mind it. I don't mind. Like you said, big shoes to fill. That championship has a lineage behind it. You know, with Wesley, with Melo, some of the other great North American champions, Keith Lee, Adam Cole. We can just keep going. Gargano, just like that belt has been really, really awesome. So, and even though Dragon Lee didn't get a chance to kind of run with it, we do know that this was probably Wes Lee's title reign. He probably would have been the guy in this spot, and Dragon Lee would probably still be doing what he was doing on SmackDown instead of having to kind of, go back and forth. But so I don't think this makes Dragon Lee look bad. He still actually was pretty competitive. I think, honestly, Lexus King almost looked the worst because he had a match with you and was still fighting really well against Obafemi, even if it didn't go that long. But yeah, man. I don't have too big of a gripe against it because I do see what the kid has. I think because I can actually call him a kid. The guy's 22. He doesn't look it. He looks like every amount of grown man. But that's a 22-year-old. He's the first one of the NIL, which I don't know if you guys know how big of a deal that is over here that has been for college athletes to finally start getting paid from certain entities. And he's one of the first people who've been getting paid as a student to end up winning a championship. So, I definitely understand it. They've invested a lot into him already, and I can see the potential. I see the vision. Now it's just about, the right opponents and what type of run will this be? Will this just be a kind of Killer Cross-esque or just like, dominant, like he's beating the hell out of everyone type of deal, which is probably where they should go? Or, will they what kind of run could this be? And what kind of North American division will we have now? Because, with Dominic probably on the main roster full time now, Dragon Lee's probably going to go back and do his own thing. And with Wes Lee's injury, it does make me curious to see what type of division because this was the highlight of NXT. I think you can agree with me that with Melo's run and even before that, North American title has been that division has been a highlight of this show. So I really am eager to see that with a fresh face like this, and with the amount of fresh faces in NXT altogether right now, does the North American title continue to be that highlight with Obafemi as champion?
Well, that's the interesting thing. And there's kind of always a couple of questions I'll ask you at the end of an update. But again, with Obafemi, it'd be interesting. I will say the breakout tournament has been a success, not only this year, but when you think Melo won it, and then we had also Roxanne Perez as well.
Roxanne.
Look how those two are. So it gives you
I
hope.
think Lola's going to be good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she's going to be good.
Hope. And even with NXT overall, we've got standard delivery. We know we've got Vengeance Day. There's a bit of structure coming up. We know we've got the Dusty Classic to get into on our next update as well. But I'll ask you, first off, what are your thoughts on this past month for NXT, and what are you hoping NXT brings you in 2024? Because like I said, there is some big changes now on the horizon.
Yeah, man, we have a lot of fresh faces. I enjoy NXT. Still, I do think everything so far has been pretty logical. It was a couple of things in the major, like we talked about with Dragunov and everything that they've been doing in that situation has been kind of confusing. And same thing with Ridge Holland. Maybe I could probably be singing a different tune in a few months, depending on the direction they try to go with Ridge. But so far, I just have not necessarily been a fan of what they've been doing in that regard. I'm also just interested to see, like you mentioned before, I love what Lyra's doing. Before I go what I'm interested to see, I want to say what I do love. I do love what Lyra's doing. I think Trick is still on fire. And I just hope that I hope that whatever going on with Dragunov don't ruin what they kind of are starting to cook with what Trick has going on, and even with Melo. But I do, like you said, a lot of changes are coming, because even if Trick versus Melo is the end goal for Stand and Deliver, I think we obviously can see with his involvement on SmackDown, Melo is I think he's ready. He's primed and ready. We talked about Gallus being ready for the call up, but we know Melo it could have been time. Even for a guy like Braun Breaker, I don't think after. That's the only thing that's kind of helping me inch them towards winning the Dusty Classic, because I'm like, what the hell else can Braun do? What the hell else have Braun? What else do you need to do other than throwing in a couple of last minute achievements in there for Braun? So, yeah, man, change is on the horizon. I think that's something that we both know. I think even by the end of the year, me and you might be looking at Dragunov on the main roster. Like, again, it's kind of insane, but we have a lot of people that seem to be they're ready to graduate, and then we have a lot of fresh faces that are going to have to start establishing themselves, going forward. So I'm eager. I'm eager to see how these things formulate, how things what turn out, what stories are left to tell. Like you said, will Lola Vice cash in? Or how would that look like if she was to become champion? Because like you said, the success of the past, invitationals and winners and all of that. Like, I'm definitely eager to see that. What's going to happen with the Dusty Cup? I'm excited to see how that turns out going forward. So it's still enough good to kind of outweigh some of the confusing or not so good. But I'm not going to lie, like NXT has been perfect. They don't feel as hot as they were a couple months back. I don't feel like they're cooking with fish grease, as people in the South where I live would like to say. I don't think they're as hot as they were back then. But at the same time, I do think it's still a lot of good there, and I just hope that things, barring injuries and unfortunate events, I just hope that things continue to make sense going forward. And that's the only thing I really can ask from NXT, because I do think quality-wise, it's still some of the best television coming on a weekly basis.
Yeah, just don't let Ridge wrestle anybody. We'll be all right. So
Yeah.
that is it. Don't forget, we're across all social media, Twitter at the WNR Podcast. I'm at the WNR. You can find the entire WNR team on the Twitter banner. Monty, where can people find and listen to you?
Yeah, like you said, you can go to the Twitter banner, or you can just go to @MindMontyPod on Twitter. Check me out. Again, I'm starting to post a little bit more. I do have the first part of the Return podcast finished. Now it's just about figuring out what content do I want to start talking about, or do I just want to put out just a message to you guys, about what's been going on, and just transitioning as a father. I'm thinking about splitting it up into multiple podcasts. But either way it goes, the podcast will be returning this month. Check out my links in my bio, and check out my Twitter @MindMontyPod for updates. I will definitely post. I will try to post a day before I upload the pod, but I'm definitely going to be sending links out when the pod is uploaded. So just keep an eye out there, because that's where you get in touch with me and find everything. Or you can go to YouTube, Mind of Monty. I will be attempting to upload everything that I do this year straight to YouTube. The best that I can also. So yeah, man, just keep up with me at Mind Monty Pod.
WNR also on Facebook and Instagram across all good platforms. Send us an email, the WNRpodcast@gmail.com, and YouTube, the WNR Podcast with the latest clips. Podcast got the same time on YouTube to do SoundCloud on your phone, also Spotify and iTunes, where you can download, subscribe, rate, and review there. So next episode is our Wrestle Kingdom review. But in 2 weeks' time, Monty, we are hoping to do a classic Rumble review, and it's going to be your choice. So choose wisely. Not much pressure, but try and come up with one that we'll all enjoy and we will watch. And if the girls don't like it, it's completely your fault.
My fault. Yeah.
But until then...
I think I got one. You were doing the entire show, or do you just mean a Royal Rumble match?
We'll do the entire show.
That would be different.
We'll
okay, because I have a favorite Royal Rumble match, but it has nothing to do with probably my favorite show. But okay. Cool.
We'll see you know how demanding Jackson and Gina are. I'm just saying.
I ought to make them watch Big John's win.
Bring them out the 88 or 89. Yeah. Come on. It'll be fun. Well, till then, I have been James Rowlands, and I was joined by the Mind of Monty. Monty, thank you very much for joining me for NXT to start this year off.
Yeah, man, always fun. I'm excited, and I can't wait to talk about what's been going on in New Japan. Again, I'm gonna you might know certain things or be caught up more than me. We'll see. Hopefully, my daughter will be agreeable and I'll be able to watch a little bit more. But hey, I don't know. It depends on how she's feeling.
Well, we're gonna find out. Thanks for this, everybody. Bye.
Adios.